The big reason that Cheryl started this journey was because of her mother's death, which happened 4 years before she went onto the PCT.
Her mother's death, it was like the trigger that let her spiral. It wasn't the reason why. Like she never said that, oh, it's because of my mother's death that I picked up heroin, that I slept with other people. But it sort of like gave her permission.
Yeah, I think so too. That kind of thing of recklessness, of having suffered such a huge loss. What other terrible thing can happen to me now that I've lost my mother? Like nothing can happen. Heroin's nothing.
Very self-destructive.
Yeah. But it also led her to the PCT, where she was self-destructive in a different, more cathartic way. Yeah.
I think the loss of her mom was the first and the main incentive for her to go on the hike, but it wasn't pervasive during the hike. And I think maybe that's how people deal with things. You know, you don't consciously deal with grief, but it might be the reason something starts.
But then there's another point I think that sort of characterizes Cheryl as a woman, and the things that she does is much later on in the book. She remembers a conversation with the mother where the mother said, you know, I was never anything else except for a mother.
Right.
I never had the chance to be anyone else. I was never just Bobby. I was always someone's mom. I was always someone's sister. I was always someone's daughter.
Yeah.
And so I think, and Cheryl realizes as well that that's part of the reason why she's so reluctant to actually find a place and settling down. But not settle down with anyone, but like just settle down as a person.
But I also think that's a beautiful parallel to why Cheryl thinks that she couldn't do the PCT, where she's like, I've been so many things in my life. I've been a waitress, I've been a writer, I've been a student, I've been a daughter, I've been a wife, but I've never been a woman that has hiked however many miles.
And I also think
whatever happened before the PCT, after her mother's death, I found that I didn't judge her as much because of that. Like her heroin use and her adultery.
I really thought I would care so much more about the heroin use, but I really didn't at all. Every time it came up, I was just like, it felt like she was just saying, oh, and then I decided to have another soft drink. Yeah. It really didn't feel like she was doing hard drugs because, there was that kind of, I think there was that buffer before the PCT, before a very specific physical hardship, and then her mother's death, which is a very specific emotional hardship. Yeah. And it was kind of like limbo. And I feel like Cheryl was in limbo, so we felt like we were in limbo with her.
I think the way she explores that chapter of her life, it was very retrospective. It was as if every time she mentioned it, we knew that it had to end somewhere. We knew that it wasn't an extended part of her life.
Yes, that
there was a few months with this guy when he was a heroin user. So every time it came up, it was like, you silly bitch. But it ended somewhere.
It was part of a bigger picture that was ultimately going to have
like
a
she had a bigger
payoff.
story, and there was only one
she had a bigger
part
story.
Of it.
Yeah, that's a perfect way of saying it.
And I almost hate to say this, but the backstory away from the hike had more emotional impact for me. You know, the incidents away from the hike. The hike was like something that was continuous and going on, and what she experienced was more physical and in the moment. Whereas the incidents she described, how she grew up and how her family came together when the stepdad was around suddenly. It was just like so wonderful, these moments away, and reading them, that was when I really experienced the book emotionally.
Exactly. Now that you mention it, it's like they felt like reprieves from the day-to-day struggle of the hike itself.
Were you guys surprised that she actually finished the journey? Surprised?
A little bit. I was really expecting her to quit. First of all, I was surprised that she quit later than I thought. But then when she decided to quit, I was like, good, that's a smart decision. And then she went through with it anyway, because there were so many opportunities for her to cut out.
Exactly.
And she didn't take them, and I was like, I would have taken that. I would have taken that.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I felt a sense of pride.
Yeah, I did feel a sense of pride.
When she was finished, it was like,
she did it.
When congratulations. She was approaching, was it the Bridge of the Gods?
Yeah.
And that was already the end of the journey. I'm like, whoa.
But then you think, there's all this other stuff you need to do. Like, this is the start of something else. But that catharsis, I think, was, like, you felt it with her.
You know this one part where she questioned herself, because when she went on the hike, she abandoned her whole life.
Yeah.
And then she was asking herself what would happen after.
Yeah.
I thought it was interesting, like, you go into this hike, this journey, and it's going to take up a certain time in your life. And then you have to worry about the future, about what will happen.
Because
but
you almost feel like
a changed person. Like, okay, you have these realizations and the clarity, and then what you're going to? Is it really going to change your life?
Yeah. That was a very important question.
Yeah.